Hey everybody, we are in the studio today for the Talking Energy Show. I'm going to give a shout out, our benefactor, Trace Management, their engineering firm and project management team gave us this office, and get my friends in here, give little talks about oil and gas and all the amazing parts that surround it. You guys, thank you for coming today. I've got friends in here. I'm just going to let everybody go around the table and introduce yourselves and who you're with. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Josh Mueggenborg, Baseline Energy Services, and appreciate you having me. Appreciate you being here, Zach. Know you, and
good to see you.
Good to seeing you again. And of course, Alex and I work together. But I'll turn it to Alex, and when it goes around, I want to start us off with a Matt Hill introduction.
Oh God.
Nice. Yeah, I'm Alex Flournoy. I've been working over at Baseline Energy for the last 3 years as the corporate development manager, actually in Denver, Colorado. Glad to have Josh on the team. Glad to be down here in Oklahoma City. And glad to be hanging out with you boys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming, Alex. Appreciate you. And then we got Zac.
Zac Coplon, Blue Bison Analytics. We are an oil and gas engineering software company in Oklahoma City. Met these guys through the oil and gas networking, tailgating type of events, and
Yeah, we have a good time.
we're still hanging out for some reason.
Speaking of tailgating, we're going to go ahead and plug that right now.
Absolutely.
Plug it. That was my.
Every home game in Norman, look up oilfieldtailgate.com. I want you guys to come down there and join us. We have a great time.
And donate.
Yeah, donate, of course. Yeah, we want sponsors, but we have, Josh is one of the co-founders of that thing. What have we done? 12 years now, I think.
Yeah,
maybe longer.
2010, right around that time frame, 09,
At
10.
least, yeah. I think we're going on 12 years. So this might be our 12th year, 13th. I don't know, but we had it in a building. But every home game, food, live local bands, and open bar.
Friendship.
Yeah. Make a lot of friends. Yeah,
Friendship
absolutely.
and good old Sooner football. We need a lot of Sooner magic this year. So
I mean, I'm always rooting for all the teams in our.
Yeah, you have a good heart.
I root for the Bronchos.
Yeah, you have a good heart.
I do have a good heart.
yeah, you're a good guy. And then speaking of that, being a good guy,
Here we go.
yeah, I've been with Baseline now right around 3 months, 10 years at Pilot Thomas. Appreciate all they did for me in my career.
Appreciate all the times you lended a hand to cook together.
Oh, we had a great time.
Yeah.
Well, that leads into my story. So interviewing with Baseline Energy, we're having some conversations, and one guy's like, well, you obviously can't be in the oil field if you don't know a guy named Matt Hill. And I'm like, no, I've never heard of Matt. Never heard of him before ever. And he's like, really? I'm like, listen, I've known Matt for a long, long time. Matt Hill before he was Matt Hill. So I want to tell you what you've done and how you've taken yourself, your business, and networking and putting a name out there for yourself. Hands down, you need to be proud of that and be blessed. I know you are. This is a guy that doesn't take friendships for granted.
No.
And he treats everyone with respect and kindness, whether they're a customer, a prospect, your family. You've been over the house before. We've had a lot of, some great times and a lot of stories we can't share on this podcast. Maybe that's an after hours podcast. We can do one of those in the future.
I think all three of the people are watching this. We could probably share that story with.
But good time. So I thought that was pretty funny. In that interview, your name came up. So
That's funny.
congrats to you, man. Kudos.
And I'm truly honored and blessed by everything that Oilfield's done for me and my family, and obviously everything I have. One person is responsible. That's God. He's given me everything. Right.
Amen.
That's how I get stuff done.
Yes,
is
sir.
I hand it over to him. So I'm very curious about Baseline and energy services. The things you guys can do over there, taking all these well sites across the United States and freeing them up to do amazing things, without having to be tied to a grid or creating your own grid, microgrids. Alex, Josh, take it away, man. Tell me everything about Baseline, what you guys can do for well owners out there.
Yeah, I'll kind of just kick off a little bit and let Alex, very impressive individual. He's probably not going to toot his own horn, but a petroleum engineering background. He's an oily for life family, kind of in his blood from Shreveport, Louisiana. Knows the business very well from rig up to completion. So he's got it down, and he spent time offshore and spent time roughnecking as a drilling rig as well, which that's probably the after hours podcast. We can talk through that.
Oh, yeah.
Some good stories. But Baseline's a great family company. They have a great culture. Graham Rather started the company in, I believe, 2012. Started up here in Oklahoma, up in Kansas, providing natural gas generators. And that's a key to our business. I'm sure everyone's being tasked with the ESG initiative.
ESG.
We've been doing that at Baseline since existence, and that's one of our strong footholds within the oil patch, and something that is going to continue to grow stronger as over the next few years. There's a pretty big highlight on it, and going to continue to be. But there's multiple things that we can do, multiple things that we can offer. But providing power, natural gas power to the well site, to Bitcoin mining, building microgrids. It's kind of our specialty, but Alex can kind of go through the history and everything that's along the lines there, and he can read gas analysis, all that stuff, Matt, that I can look at, and it's all foreign language to me.
Yeah.
But Alex is kind of the brains behind all that. So
Alex, are you the brains in this room right now?
Let's hear it.
I don't know about all that, but I learned enough in school to try to be dangerous in the sales world. And when I hang out with my engineering buddies,
You're an engineering buddy, though.
I'm
You're
usually
petroleum
the
engineer.
dumbest one in the room. When I hang out with a bunch of sales guys, I usually feel a little bit better about myself when it comes to being technical.
Yeah, you're going to be the smartest guy in this room.
hands down.
Well, okay, maybe.
Well, Zach is going to give him a run for his money.
Pass.
No, it's been a good fun career for me. Just after getting out of engineering school, I was thinking I would go in to be an operations engineer for an E&P business. I'd worked 4 summer internships. Dad ran an E&P company. Worked a couple of my internships there. Met a guy playing golf right before I graduated. Says, "You might be an engineer, but you're a salesman, and I'm going to hire you." And the rest is history. I spent 10 years in the natural gas compression business, East Texas, Canada, and then been in Denver, Colorado for the last 7 or 8 years. And then got the opportunity 3 years ago to switch over to power generation. And, like Josh was saying, Baseline, great family-ran company. Started with 2 or 3 employees. Now we got over 100 folks there. Started with 4 or 5 generators. Now we've got 1,200 of them. And the mission was to replace diesel with natural gas. And so when we talk about ESG, burning an engine is not exactly ESG, but burning natural gas versus burning diesel.
Yeah,
That's the benefit.
Right, and then now the transition is all these well sites that we talk about across the United States with the flare gas, right? Well, guess what? You guys have a solution.
Absolutely.
And that has been from a once every 6 months phone call to 3 phone calls a day here in the last few months with taking stranded gas and doing data mining, whether that's blockchain, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin, whatever it may be. Eliminating flares and reducing flaring intensity has become a large topic in our industry. And Bitcoin or crypto in general requires quite a bit of power, which the best way to make power is with free fuel. And if you've got flare gas, then you've got free fuel. And it's a kind of a little match made in heaven. It's a nice little niche for us now.
So how are they going to pay the mineral owners for that flare gas? And that used to be like, hey, this is something that we are taking a hit on. This is a loss, and now it's like, oh well, this is worth something now. So we've all talked about almost several of the podcasts now. We mentioned like what's the best model to pay people for the minerals on that gas.
It's
are
really
you going to pay them in Bitcoin? You're going to pay them in the price per MCF? What?
It really depends. So if the gas is going to be in a position to be on a sales point and be able to go sold to a midstreamer to get processed, it's tough to take that gas and convince somebody to give it to you for anything less than what Henry Hub price, whatever they're selling it for.
Right.
But if you've got stranded gas, whether that be flared gas or just the fact that you drilled a well, you've got a bunch of oil, you're trucking it out, but you're able to tank it and truck it, but you're flaring the gas. For years and years, that was totally fine, and in some states it still is. A lot of states it's
for long.
not, and it's not for long. But
And I'd rather, as an industry, take care of it ourselves before it becomes a regulation, right? We don't need the government to tell us, like, look, we know that's money that's getting burned up. We don't like money burned up. We just haven't had a solution until now.
We don't, or the government does.
The government doesn't care.
Oh, okay.
They care about one thing: getting their taxes.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Which means a
We're
regulation.
gonna make that clear,
Let's
right?
make this very clear.
Yeah, all right, there you
They
go.
love regulating
There
this.
you go.
yeah, and then the regulation coming now with the infrastructure bill is going to possibly be coming after a lot of these Bitcoin folks, and people in the industry who are going into the crypto side of things are getting a little worried about what this is going to look like. It's kind of by nature designed to be unregulated, and
But it can be, if this is truly stranded gas, and so right now, if I wanted to, I could go out and drill a natural gas well, right, with no infrastructure at all. I could take that gas, bring it up out of the ground. If it's dry gas, if it's wet gas, you got to have some more equipment on location. But with your generator, I could have that gas come up, power your generator. I could have Bitcoin mine out there. I could have a satellite internet, so I don't need any lines out to my location. Satellite internet, I could go back and forth with all my data, and I could be mining Bitcoin full time with natural gas out there.
you 100% could do that. And,
I mean, that is real
think you
power. That is real power put back in the hands of the mineral owner and not the government. That's what they're terrified of. period.
Spot on.
And the mineral owners, the problem is with them is when they get paid for that gas, they want the value of the gas. And if they're not being paid and they're flaring it, then the mineral owner by nature is not making any money off of it anyway. They're typically having to pay to flare that gas. So the mineral owner is making that money off the oil. So when it comes to buying the gas cheap and how the mineral owners get rewarded, the mineral owners typically are not the ones that get rewarded as much as the company doing the mining. And it's an entrepreneurial spirit that nobody that has the gas has to give it to anybody or has to sell it for a certain price. They can do whatever they want, but they will get approached by people who are going to try to always buy it as cheap as they can. And whether that's 25 cents an M or $1 or $2, that's going to be good.
Well, I really want to see where this is going to take us. I mean, I think you guys are poised to, I don't know, rein in the new frontier of the oil and gas sector. I mean, Oklahoma is sitting on, let's call it Bitcoin heaven, right? I mean, Oklahoma is all about gas.
Oklahoma, Texarkana, I mean, areas that are close that have been old historical gas plays that have been quote unquote dead for many years. You know, now there's opportunity there. What's interesting about this is Alex and I had a meeting this morning in Tulsa, and you know, we're in there visiting with an engineer, and we're telling him that, hey, less than 15 minutes away, there's a Bitcoin mine running off gas.
Yeah,
and the engineer's like, yeah, you know exactly where that's at. And the engineer's like, what was his reply? He was shocked. He had no clue.
He had never heard of people mining Bitcoin with flare gas, even though a lot of the producers that are in his backyard in Wyoming are actually doing the exact same thing, and they've requested quotes on generators from me within the last week. And it's so new that even the people you would think would have full clarity about it, maybe never even heard of it.
Are you guys partnering with Bitcoin guys, or are you guys thinking about maybe like, hey, look, we have the generators. Now we just got to build the buildings and go get the mines. I mean, you guys could potentially go out and set this all up for the mineral owners themselves, right? Like, hey, see, you have this much flare gas. We have the right Bitcoin mine for you. We have the right generator for you and your operation out there.
I would say there's multiple avenues that we can go down. That's probably the beautiful thing about Baseline, and what, you know, Graham and team and the vision is we can go down multiple avenues depending on what the customer, what the mineral owner, what they want to do. We've got multiple options.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when the miners, the guys that actually own the computers in the houses that they mine, that the miners sit in,
the hash huts,
huts, all of those folks typically, not in a greedy way, but their goal is to get power as cheap as possible, fuel as cheap as possible, and to keep as much of the coin as they can, because that's their business. Their business isn't typically making oil and gas. The mining group is typically there to mine coin. And so if we step in and become a full, you know, service provider from start to finish, it would be lucrative for us. But the partners then that we're working with are going to ask, where do I fit in this picture? If you've already done it all yourself, then why do you need me? And so right now we kind of look at it more of a partnership where they go find the gas, they find the customers, they bring the hash hut, and we're just a specialist to provide the power. Because it's not as easy as just plugging it into the wall. You buy this mining equipment from Russia or China, and it has these odd voltages and these different phases, and you got to figure out how to tune your generator to run it, that kind of stuff. That's where we step in.
Any manufacturers not in Oklahoma? Do we have any manufacturers in the United States who are actually creating Bitcoin miners?
I don't believe anybody's creating the actual miners, but we have a lot of people creating the hash huts and then stashing the miners inside of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting that we don't have anybody creating these things. Golly.
I think Scott said that there were people attempting to create like Ethereum miners, not the Bitcoin miners.
Ethereum works for me.
Eat the mic.
Don't eat the mic too
Eat the
much.
mic.
Do you think that, okay, so Zach, your software that forecasts, that evaluates, you know, the minerals, will that be something in the future that you see as part of the mix? Is like, hey, by the way, your mineral mix now is worth more money because Bitcoin mining is available in your area, so now the value's gone up.
I think the software can be useful for it now for forecasting purposes.
You can see how much gas is down there and what that gas will be worth to the Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, effectively, if you have a volume of gas and you know, on average how many dollars per MCF you're mining, you can forecast it with a traditional oil and gas engineering software.
Okay.
Or a new oil and gas engineering software.
Yeah, this is all new.
Zach, would you say with the recent little spike here, $6 gas, that you guys have seen an influx in calls and forecast and adjusted forecast?
Yeah, we've definitely seen an influx in calls in the last couple of months, especially since Jessica, shout out, has come on board, helping us pump up the sales process. And we've put out some more marketing type of content to get the word out. Thank you, Matt, for assisting in that.
It's Jessica Lucart, not Jessica Dahl. I saw her earlier.
Dalla.
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 I've always known her as
Dalla
Lucart
Bills.
since we were little kids.
Well, I think the software and that's available today, along with the generation of power out on locations, is vital for all the operators out there. I mean, big or small, all these well sites are going to change rapidly.
Absolutely.
How many, when you guys are looking, do you know? I mean, were you able to scrape the data? Like, how many well sites in the United States have flares right now? Do you know?
The data is out there, but we haven't, because we're not the ones tracking down the flare gas. We're just the ones providing power to those who are trying to track it down. The data is out there. North Dakota and Texas are going to be the places where there's the most of it.
Sure. I mean, Permian's, everybody's talking about the Permian right now. They always have, and they always will. The
Bakken. I mean,
there's flare gas everywhere, but I just wondered if you had any idea how many, flares are running in the United States right now.
There's enough flare gas out there for a lot of people to power a lot of
If you have that
crypto.
answer, anybody watching this, by the way, how many wells have flares on them right now?
Bailey?
I need to know.
Wolf, XRG Technologies,
Yeah.
they're a flare technology engineering consulting company.
Surely we can find out. How many flares are running in the United States?
Ian can get that for us.
There we go. We need that data when we can start measuring how many generators we can use.
Put to work.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because if we know how many flares, maybe we know how much flare gas is coming off of them, and then we'll know how much power is just being burned up for no reason at all.
Completely wasted.
Wasted. And our industry does not like to waste all
No,
that.
but we have done a poor job of showing the public that
Well-
with the way we've flared our gas. So it's,
We didn't. I mean, it was cheaper to burn it than do something else with it until now. Now we have your solution. Hey, look, you have gas going. You need to turn it into power. Now, have you had extra power on location? Say they don't have a hash hut out there yet, right? So what's the rest of that power going to do? You have all this gas. You got the location taken care of. All the power needs on location are taken care of. Now, are you able to sell that extra power back to the municipalities?
conceptually, it's very simple to create the electricity and sell it back. But dealing with utility companies and
They don't
large
want the power
scale,
right now.
well, they either don't want the power or they want to have or they're going to take 2 years and 19,000 pages of contracts to figure out how you're actually going to do it. Creating the electricity is easy. Figuring out how to sell it to them is difficult.
Because
Well,
this
it
adds
depends on
to
what
our
state you're in too,
infrastructure.
right?
I mean, yeah, but it shouldn't, right? Texas had a enormous
It's not
trouble.
regulated.
Yeah, they had all that trouble last winter, and here you guys have solutions. Like every single place in the Permian that had a flare, you guys had power. You could have tossed back on the lines and sent it down, to someone that needed it.
Absolutely.
all of those. It's frustrating.
Yeah, there's many aspects that, I guess there's different plays that could be put together to help that out, what Baseline could do to help solve that. And there's many different options, but, I think that's something to continue to work towards in the future.
And essentially, that generator that they're getting from you, I mean, can they buy them or just rent them? Is it all rental?
All rental.
All
All
rental.
rental.
Okay. Well, either way, that's a cost for doing business. That is off the books. That's that's a revenue source.
Absolutely. We take pride and we have a 99.7 runtime. We do, our PMs, we take care of all the maintenance on all of our units, 99.7 runtime. We have a, what we call a 24/7, 365 telemetry on our units that we're monitoring from our corporate office in Fort Worth. So, we're monitoring low-level alarms, any threats that go on. I know Alex, he has a major hat in the operations role, so his phone, he gets alarms throughout the day, and some of them may not be any issues, but they're just things to monitor so we can prevent any downtime. So when you have a 99.7% runtime, that's very, very key to our industry because NPT is not any fun at any aspect. So that's something that Baseline takes pride in.
But if anything happens to, like, say, if you're well site, for those just tuning into the oil field for the first time and watching this, God bless you. And then second, all these wells that we go drill after the fact, whenever completion's done and production's getting started and all the facilities are built, all that stuff out there takes power. The pumps and I mean, everything
ESP.
needs all this the way we bring up the oil and gas from the bottom of the well, it takes power, and that usually comes from, in old days, used to come from the power lines, running nearby. Somebody had to run electricity out to those, well sites. Well, guess what? That is really not that efficient. And a lot of times, if power goes down, you're waiting on a utility company to go fix that. So your well's just sitting there. That's a terrible plan.
And a lot of times if the power grid is consistent and it's close enough to you, then the need for our product isn't quite as high. But if you have a facility that needs power and you want to turn it on and the power company's not going to be able to get to you for 3 months or 6 months, a year, you have a landowner that says you're never going to be able to put a power pole on this piece of property, you've got to have power some way. There's enough places out there that fit what we do, and then there's plenty of places out there where it makes sense to tie into the overhead power lines, but it's just mainly trying to avoid trying to put a diesel generator out to make power in place of a natural gas or the power line, and that's where, the oil field has really cleaned itself up. When you can put a catalyst on the unit and clean up the emissions and be 90 to 95% cleaner than diesel, it's something you
Matt.
can be proud of.
We mentioned ESG earlier, right?
ESG.
I'm all about ESG now because I'm going to embrace it and monetize it. And whatever the left throws at us, I'm going to say thank you. Stoicism is what I'm learning. Okay, as I age in wisdom, stoicism is the ability to just get kicked in the guts and say I accept it and I thank you for it. Right?
Absolutely.
Like type up like a report, 4 or 5 days, 1,000 pages, and then watch your computer eat it and go, awesome, thank you, computer. I got this. Thank you for that experience. Right? So that's what we're going to do with ESG. The left handed it to us, said you now have to do environmental and social governance. Okay, cool. Is this going to be good for industry? Probably so. We know how to take anything and make it good for us.
Absolutely. And that's a big focus, and that's what's great about Baseline. I mean, since day one we've existed, that's been our focus. And now all of a sudden it's a big deal. Well, we've been saying it for how many years now?
You know, you're like, hey, by the way, you know, yes, we're giving you a way to make cleaner, cheaper power for your well sites, and yeah, there's an environmental aspect. Now it's like, oh, there's an environmental aspect.
Absolutely.
Ta-da.
We are.
That's the. Do you think that? So the other thing I was wondering about is it more economical for people? Are you finding to take them off of grid power, and then grid power is a backup? You know, like, hey, look, the lines are out there. You know, if our generator goes down, which it's not 99.9% of the time, but right now you're taking people off of the grid right now because of the way the structure is on their gas coming up out of the ground. You can run their well site off of your generator cheaper, and they can get the grid power.
We're doing that 5 miles from Trace's office right here in Oklahoma City. There's a few operators around here that would rather, and it makes more economical sense to the bottom line to have our generators out there versus paying Oklahoma Gas and Electric. And now, I'm not saying that they won't go to that in the future, but as they turn these wells on and they've got their ESP fired up, when the well starts to decline, then they'll probably run it to the grid power, which is going to save them more money then. But right now, we're the economical choice.
Because so much gas is coming out.
So yes, and what's that going to mean? Well, that and how much the electricity is going to run to power all their pumps, right? Mm-hmm. What does that mean in the next year, the next 2 years? Are they going to make the switch over to, if they have highline power available, or are they going to continue to utilize the gas that they have to power all the pumps that are out there on equipment? That's probably the wild card that's there right now. The focus is it's the cost savings measure right now. ESG is a good component to that, but as ESG continues to grow and has legs on it, as we're seeing it do, that may just be, it could be mandated. We don't know, right? But it's good to know that we have that option. That's here locally. Alex obviously he's dealt with it a couple other states than what I've seen.
Well, I mean, it's all dependent on your dollars per kilowatt hour. Whatever you're paying in every state varies, and your demand charges based on how much power you use. Will also, you can have a much higher rates when you're using much more power. So, in Oklahoma is really one of the only states where we've had a lot of success with taking customers off of the grid and putting them on generators, and it's mostly due to the economics. They provide us with their utility bill. We back calculate what they're paying and what we can pay, and we show them the savings. In typical oil field generator rentals, we are bridging the gap, providing power until the power line gets there. So it's extremely different from when they're hooked up to the grid and they take it off the grid and hook it up to the generators, not only for it's cheaper, but also in some cases because it's more reliable. And that's kind of, pat ourselves in the back when we have something rotating at 1800 RPM, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year, and still being more consistent than something coming from a power plant. That's not always the case, but when you have poor grid service, you can always count on us to step up and fix that problem for you.
Well, look at other countries as well that you guys could expand in. I mean, as more countries become more savvy on how to utilize the drilling and completion production process that we've adapted here in the United States for their natural resources. Well, they're not going to have the same infrastructure on their power grids, right? They're going to have to rely on companies like yours to go, oh, hey, we're drilling wells out in the middle of nowhere. We've got to use this reliable power that you guys provide. So there's a whole new market coming up.
Absolutely. So I think you just gave a shout out to Graham, our CEO, that we need to go overseas. Let's go offshore.
To
right?
take it international.
Let's go international.
I'd like to drill a well in Dominican Republic.
Somewhere tropical.
Somewhere tropical.
Yeah, I can get down with that.
Work on that tan.
You know what? Tan fat's way better looking.
Yeah, well, you're down 100?
125, 130.
Good for you, man. Cheers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Had a good time.
That's awesome.
Hand it to my wife that watches the kids and lets me go jog marathons these days.
You got a good one putting up with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Misty knows that.
Every one of us in the oil field has outkicked our coverage on the wife scale.
Absolutely.
I promise you.
Absolutely.
Part of it.
We don't deserve any of them.
I agree.
We
I agree.
put them through the ringer. But the other thing I found fascinating was the way your generators run off of the gases present on location. You're talking about earlier. Every well is different. You get wet gas, dry gas, and then a mixture of those gases in between. So you guys can take your generators and tune them to the gas, at that particular well.
Yeah, meeting this morning, Alex, going through the gas analysis, it's pretty key for us to get that. The operators, it's a lot different than a prior life I was in. They're so happy to give you information to help out, and without the operators giving us that information, working together on it, it helps us be successful to drive the success that they need. But this morning we got a prime example of that, and Alex can kind of talk through the details of that. Is, like I said, reading a foreign language on it, he gets it all. But having that data really helps us and how much we have to derate our engine, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Well, I mean, when you go to the gas station, you pick the octane of your fuel. You got regular, you got Supreme,
I want the
whatever.
93. Why don't we have that more in Oklahoma? It's in Texas all over the place. I can't get 93 anywhere here.
It's one off Memorial.
Bananas. Oh, Memorial? Okay, well, I've been looking at our place. 7-Eleven gas station.
Now you found it.
Speedway fuels.
for people to come out and fill your vehicle up for you, Matt.
I like that. That's so nice.
Yeah.
There's one in Tulsa left, I think.
Full service.
You're going there
full
tonight.
service.
Get it going.
Yeah, I'm going there tonight. Pick up a fridge. But anyway, so back to the
Yeah, that's
gas.
pretty much the exact opposite of what we're dealing with. We don't get to go in and pick our 89 or our 91 or our 93 octane. We're given what we're given, and it's usually based on a BTU, the British thermal units, how much energy is in it. We prefer, and engines in general prefer methane and ethane, the lighter of the hydrocarbons. As you put propane and hexane and heptane and the C3 plus hydrocarbons in the chain, you change the combustion of the fuel in the engine. And to be able to have an engine that can tune itself or to be manually tuned to be able to operate on a wide variety of gases. I mean, like Josh was saying this morning, the customer we were talking with had 1,530 BTU gas, which is only 60% methane. Okay. So now you've got 40% of your gas stream is something that's not exactly ideal for your engine, which changes the way it combusts, which changes the way that the timing needs to be set on the engine. And these are all things you have to know. And if your customer was like, hey, I just got gas, and you thought it was all the same, you could get out there and have a generator that's not big enough because you need to derate that power. So as much as our business, we try to keep it less technical, there are some things about it where you have to do the diligence up front to make sure that you deliver a good product to the customer.
Some engineering.
we've got engineers on staff at Basin.
So you have separate machines out there to scrub the gas before it gets to the generators, or is this part of the generator?
The customers
itself?
themselves will run it through their own separation equipment, and then
separators out there.
we'll have a final scrubber before it goes into the engine to kind of catch the final bit. But by no means do we have like a separator or a slug catcher on the front side of our generator. That's the customer is going to build their facility, and whether they're putting the gas to the generator or putting it into a compressor or putting
Alex,
it into
you
a flare.
should provide that service. I mean, I'm just saying that's an
He
add-on.
could do it.
Yeah, you could do
He
it.
could do it.
It would be redundant. They've already built it by the time we show up. So.
Yeah, I mean that thing should be out there just walking around cleaning up garbage too on location.
Now we're talking.
Put some legs on that bad boy, become the robot of the location.
There's a drone that can do that now, right?
Yeah, why did it? Yeah, can it fly?
That's next.
Yeah, I want your generators to fly out to location, land, hook themselves up with all the cords, and like, we're here, boss.
Yeah, ready to go.
That's the future.
It's
That's
gonna
the
future.
Yeah.
Tesla robot.
Rigs are going to be able to do it pretty soon. I think H&P, I talked to Amanda, Collier the other day. I think the H&P rigs are just going to fly to location, drill a hole, and then like bring you back like a hose for your natural resources. It's going to be amazing.
Life's going to be good.
Life's going to be
Sounds like none of us are going to have a job.
Yeah,
Right.
we're going to have to hire a lot of
We're-
smart people to continue to run computers.
well, I don't know. Wait, never mind, not me.
Software.
You do a good job editing everything.
This thing's probably not even working right now, guys. We're probably,
Is this on?
yeah, by the way, anything that happens in this room is may or may not be recorded right now. I'm trying to mess up at least one or two every week. There's people out there, they're going to come to their LinkedIn pages and be looking and looking and looking forever and ever, wondering, man, did he just not like that one? Like, I did. I just, it just sounded like crap. And or your voice was like, you were just moving your mouth, and I never actually
Nothing
hit
came
record.
through.
Yeah.
Nothing came through.
So there's people out there right now just wondering if they're ever going to see their episode.
It'll get out there.
Terrifying.
Eventually. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I
Until
might
next
just have
time.
to like overdub it, like put their words in my voice.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can just type
So
it
this
out.
one is
Terrible.
on.
Sure.
Okay.
Allegedly. You can say whatever you want in here. It'll
Stay
never,
tuned, Zach.
Stay
All right.
tuned.
Stay tuned, Zach.
Zach, what do you think about all this, man? Your customers,
Oh.
your customers are going to find ways. I mean, you talk to a lot of smaller operators, so this is something that they need as well. Big and small, right? How many well sites are in the United States running right now? There's another piece of data you need to find out,
Yeah, good question.
right?
Ian can get that for us.
How many wells are producing right now in the United States?
Is there going to be a
can
pop
get that.
quiz after this?
Yeah, this is all,
I need multiple choice.
Follow up.
I mean,
with
I
an answer
actually
to that.
know, I know this number, I think, but
We can open
Let's
my
do it.
laptop.
yeah, we
could
don't-
find out.
We could find out. I don't think we
Forecast
could.
can tell you that information.
Your software can tell you how many wells are producing right now in the United States.
Well,
online.
for sure in Oklahoma, New Mexico, Texas, Louisiana, and West Virginia.
So we need the North now. We need the Rockies. We need the Bakken. We need the Marcellus.
Okay. When a client requests that, we'll definitely add it.
I could be a client.
Yeah, just
Sold.
did.
Just did.
Sold.
Damn it. Sorry about the cursing on this show. It gets hairy.
Sign here, Matt.
Hey, by the way, in case Talisker Storm is watching, this is your whiskey and we like it, and you're welcome to send a bottle.
Thank you.
Of all the things I want to sponsor us, it's always like a whiskey company. I mean, eventually, like
about a local?
First of all, we'll get a sponsor. I mean, the only sponsor we have right now is Trace Management and the Oilfield Tailgate. All the sponsors pitch in and do their thing for Oilfield Tailgate. So I'm doing this really to say thank you to the Oilfield Tailgate sponsors. Right. Eventually, that's kind of how it all got started. It's like, how could I give the tailgate sponsors more bang for their buck, right? So
Smart.
do little commercials for all of them with my camera.
Now, how many podcasts have you done? What is this episode?
Oh man, I think we're on. This is number. I think you guys are number 15 in
So
this
you, need
room.
to, you need to announce that. It's kind of like you're asking about all the active wells and everything. How many?
I might slip a couple in between. I don't know
Okay.
if this is actually going to be number 15 in the lineup.
Joe Rogan, he's numbered. I mean, you got it all numbered.
I'm not that. I'm not sophisticated yet like Joe Rogan.
Let's get you there.
Yeah.
We just got to make sure that we're actually recording this one.
We are recording this, right?
What's some of the things you guys see coming up in power generation? Really, like what's the next steps in technology for our industry on that side of things?
Really, we've talked a lot about some of the newer and different things that we do, but really at the core of our business, we're powering oil field surface equipment and downhole pumps. Getting into the crypto side, getting into some of the other stuff is really new. I mean, powering ESPs, powering pumping units, powering LACT units, powering saltwater disposal pumps. Just central tank batteries, anything that you would hook up to the electricity. But now, generators, rigs have been running on diesel generators for a long time. Frac fleets have been running on diesel. Those are two very large ticket items that require a lot of power. Figuring out how to run those on natural gas is a big push. Lots of frac companies and drilling companies are looking into that. We're heavily looking into that ourselves. And, if you're trying to make an impact, start with the biggest source of emissions in our industry, which is the drilling and the completions. The production side, every bit helps, but we're talking a couple of 100 kilowatts versus multiple megawatts, and we could really make a big impact in our industry if we could convert everything over to natural gas and get away from
Could
diesel.
you guys put do you have big enough generators to run drilling rigs?
We would take a bunch of ours to do it. So what we've been looking into is just some larger ones because most customers have a limited amount of space, and we want to be able to provide what they need without taking up too much space. So Baseline is looking into some of those new ventures, and hopefully we'll have some exciting news coming out of that in the next few
That'd be
months.
cool. You get out there to location, you start up your generators with diesel, of course, but then you switch over to boom. I mean, Cactus has some of those available right
Yeah, they
now.
have a lot of dual fuel.
A lot of dual fuel, but if you guys just have hey, by the way, I can bring out. You don't even have to have power now on your rigs as part of it. Like we'll just bring out the power as a separate
Absolutely.
service.
That's what we're hoping to do. And most wells, not all wells, have access to natural gas near them. If you're drilling a pad that already has a well on it, great candidate. If you're wildcatting or just drilling a brand new pad, maybe not. But, Certarus and some of these other fueling companies that provide natural gas, it's not as cheap and as cost effective as using your own gas because you're having to transport it and compress it and everything else. But there's plenty of people out there that can get you enough gas to run anything you want, any time of day, anywhere. It's just if you have it yourself coming out of a pipeline or a wellhead, you're miles ahead of having to buy it from somebody else.
Oh man, I just want a Bitcoin mine so bad now.
Same.
I really just want to go out and drill wells and use generators and Bitcoin mine.
Has anyone
So
drilled a
disruptive.
Bitcoin
I absolutely love that we can take away power from that dollar bill.
Has anyone drilled a Bitcoin purposed well specifically for Bitcoin?
Oh sure.
That you've heard
I
of?
know. Why not? I mean, why would you tell anybody if you did?
I wouldn't,
I wouldn't.
especially if it was going well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to see somebody come out and
Can your software not detect that, Zach?
I don't think that there's a category
Supposed to
for
say not
Bitcoin
yet.
mining well. It's not in public data yet, but one day.
There you go.
I mean that's the thing. Like I just talked about is like you can now go out, drill a gas well, have a generator, a hash hut, and your software and your satellite dish to connect to the internet.
Petroleum engineer determine the economics and the reserves so we can see how to maximize the miners.
It's all about, if you know how much gas you've got, you know how much you can get paid for the gas, or your equivalent cost on what you're mining, you can build a model and you base it off crypto as opposed to selling oil or gas. And if that model has a higher, steeper curve to the right, then likely that's where you want to go.
What our friends in Tulsa say when you guys went up to see them that we're doing the Bitcoin mining? So the other day we were talking and we did the numbers with them. That was roughly that was what 2 months ago now.
About 2 months. I was there last week also.
So with the price of Bitcoin at the time and the price of natural gas at the time, they were roughly making $15 gas instead of like the $5 or some $4 and some change that it was at the time. So I don't know how that would translate today.
Well, yeah, now that Bitcoin's sitting around $48,000 or so, but the main thing is that when gas was $2 to $3, which it has been for the last couple of years, most of the folks we talked to said they were getting anywhere from $18 to $32 equivalent in MCF, and that can all depend on how much they were originally getting for their gas, as well as how much mining equipment they're using. And not all mining equipment is created equal.
No, not even
So,
close. You've got the $15,000 mines and you've got the $1,000 mines. So it's efficiency.
That's a big scale and big factor in that. Is what are you using to mine with, and how much hash rate do you have?
What is the price of gas doing for you guys right now as it's going up?
On our generator business outside of like crypto, just our standard core business, more wells are drilled, in areas that need power. So traditionally, just like all other service companies, we are busier. On the crypto side, it kind of is the opposite, because unless the gas is stranded, not a lot of people are wanting to take $6 gas and put it through the generator. When it was $2, it made a lot of sense. It still does at $6. It's just a little bit less appetizing, to the tune of 3 times less appetizing than it was. But for us, we still do way more business with oil and gas traditional than we do with crypto. And so as oil and gas prices increase, opportunities increase, and business is better for us.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, more and more of our world will run on natural gas, and maybe just won't be enough natural gas for, crypto at the time. The crypto will have. In fact, they'll drive up crypto prices, right?
Something's going to have to power all electronic vehicles. Once they start sucking on the grid power, natural gas.
Electronic vehicles.
Probably be first.
I still want a canoe just because I met the guy now, and I think I can make it all tactical. That's it. It'll be an electrical tactical vehicle, right? That's it. It's going to be, it's going to be made in Oklahoma. So that's my only reason, okay, I'll probably figure out how I can play with this thing. It's like a cool golf cart.
Yeah, that'll work. I mean, the administration came out and said we need to have all electric vehicles by whatever time frame it was, but the power, you can't even power everything.
I've got like Fred Flintstone feet. That's probably how those vehicles are going to be.
You are running
mostly powered. Yeah,
that's exactly how it's going to be
big,
powered.
thick, hairy feet.
There just hadn't been enough that's been thought through on all of that yet. So, I'm sure they're going to say that there has. But
you don't think the government thinks through everything, Josh?
I think
no.
I don't think our current
You're wrong.
administration thinks through anything at all. That's a whole separate podcast, and that's going to be a lot more of that.
Yeah, well, we're going to work with them. We're going to reach across the aisle and pull them out of their, we're going to pull their heads out of something.
We need to.
We have to.
Well, the prices is what helps us. When people go pay $4 a gallon for gasoline, and we shut down a pipeline coming to the United States from Canada, and we shut down federal drilling, and then we go beg foreign countries to give us more oil and gas, and they don't do it.
Like,
understand
how that is just terrifying. We all grew up, in a country that's pretty free, and I want to stay that way. So if I have the ability to create my own energy, then I'm a free person. The second, we can't create our own money out of Bitcoin, and the second we give over all of our energy, production to overseas entities that hate America and hate what we stand for and hate our values, that's terrifying to me.
Well, before I was born, even the 60s, 70s, 80s were all times where we wanted energy independence. And then as soon as we created energy independence with the shale revolution, everybody freaked out and said, make it stop. And it's all they wanted for 30 years. We were, I remember my parents saying, people were talking about running out of oil and gas by, the late 80s, and we're going to, there's always some giant conspiracy about how the world's about to burn down. And we figured out how to power it. And then they said, no, shut it down. And on top of shut it down, let's only shut it down here. And then let's go get it from places that don't have any rules and do it really, really poorly and fund really terrible organizations.
Yeah, they want to kill us,
Yeah.
kill our children, kill our freedom. Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about. We got to do this for our kids. We got to speak up on it, and we got to protect our kids. You've got little ones, Zach does,
The problem is, out of all the people we talk to, no one wants to run for office. We just want to be behind the scenes. Don't want to be behind the curtain.
Podcast opinions.
Podcast opinions. There we go.
Yeah, and I lived in Boulder County, Colorado for a long time,
God bless
and
you.
I enjoy to drink a lot of beverages, cold beverages in the evening sometimes, and so I got in some interesting conversations with folks.
Did you tell them right away you're a petroleum engineer?
I would say that, and they would think I was the devil.
Nice.
Instant fight.
Are we into Twitter now? Is that what we're talking about?
I love Twitter.
Is that where you're getting on your social media fights?
No, not such. We're
He
talking
did
about
it
in
in
person.
person.
Oh,
This
real
is all
fight.
real,
in person, yeah.
real fights.
Might as well.
Real cup full of booze and real liberal that's really hating me for being a petroleum engineer, standing in front of them, and that was always an interesting part of the business, was just trying to explain to them, as David Ramsden-Wood, another LinkedIn guy, says, there is no pissing section. There's no pissing section in the swimming pool. If there's emissions coming out in Iraq or Iran or Russia, we all live in the same globe. Why not do it here where we can do it cleaner? And when I would try to explain that to people, this is not in my backyard. If you really care, you would do it in Colorado. We do it the cleanest you can do it. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that the world's not going to, have the emissions coming into it. And 70-80% of them would go, oh, that makes sense. And the other 20% I'm just stick their head back in the sand and say, you're the devil, you're a petroleum engineer. We need all renewable energy, and have no concept of really how it works.
For those who aren't in the know, I think natural gas is renewable, by the way. Just my humble opinion, but from geologists I've talked to, guess what? We always have this magma churning in the middle of the earth and all that rock. And so every time you heat something up and turn it into melting things, well, there's gases. Those gases will eventually make it to some pocket in our rock, right? So we just have to find it. That's it. That's renewable.
Well, now they're coming out and they actually have RNG, renewable natural gas, which is from landfills and from biospheres full of manure.
So we need to make more landfills to make more renewable gas, everybody.
Or we can say that burning wood chips is renewable, because that's what a lot of the green companies are doing these days, because you can grow trees back.
Grow trees back, so it's renewable resources.
It makes you just want to bang your head against the wall.
Look, whoever came up with green energy, they said the word green, and it was the best marketing ever. Like, I just want to wrap my arms around that salesman and go, dude, you are
nailed
a
it.
wizard. That's why we have to rebrand. That's why we have ESG. We're taking that from them, just like I took flat bill hats. You know, like, hey, look, I can wear a flat bill hat. I can take your ESG. I'm gonna create like we're gonna call it a Earth Energy now.
Earth Energy.
Yeah, we're not gonna call it fossil fuels anymore. Now it's called Earth Energy. I mean, it's ours. We can brand it all this however we want.
Let's go.
Let's do this. Earth
like
Energy.
it.
Everybody.
Earth Energy.
Hashtag Earth Energy.
Make it happen.
Well, guys, listen, this is our show. This is the Talking Energy Show. I think we've talked energy long enough for anybody to stand, don't you?
Absolutely.
How do people get a hold of Baseline Energy Services? What's your website?
We're at baselineenergy.com.
Baselineenergy.com. What's your email, Alex?
I'm A Flournoy, Flournoy at baseline-inserv, which is short for energyservices.com.
Okay, well, you're going to have to look that up. I'm gonna
Check
tag
it out
you
on. Check it out. Find me on LinkedIn if you're.
Find Alex on LinkedIn.
Can you spell my last name, Matt?
I can't. I probably can. M-U-G.
MUE.
M-U-E.
There you go.
M-U-E.
2 G's.
G-G-E-N-B-O-U-R-G.
B-O-R-G. I failed kindergarten 3 times. So
I would too.
yeah, my son's in pre-K right
If I had
now.
to spell your name to get past that.
Oh, it's ridiculous. My
Anyway,
girls.
you guys probably
can
spell
do it.
Mueggenborg, so
Yeah, they can
if
do
If
it.
you're listening, Mueggenborg.
Mueggenborg.
It's easy. Josh Mueggenborg.
Good old German name for you. Can't forget it.
Oh man, I love you guys. Thank you for
Love
coming
you,
in
buddy.
here and doing
Appreciate
this.
you having us.
Thank you,
Anything
Matt.
you want to plug? You got any events coming up? Anything you need to?
One thing I want to say is last week we were at the Daniel Energy Partners Barbecue out in the Permian. Hands down, one of the best oilfield events and shows that I've ever attended. And as you know, Matt, I've been to them all across really the world. I mean, I've been over in Dubai and all across, and that was one of the best events ever. So shout out to Daniel Energy Partners in that group. And I know there's a lot of events that are coming up, and it's good to see people getting out. And all the COVID restrictions, I'm not saying they're totally lifted. Everyone has to be safe. I get that. But it's good to see people out again. It's good to shake hands.
Are you going to be at the OER, the SOAR next week? SOER, OERB?
Won't be there. We're going to be, we have a booth at the Oil and Gas Expo there in the Permian. Same week that you're
Permian
going to be
Basin,
there.
yep.
So,
Permian Basin
come check us out at our
International
booth there. And Matt will be going around with his camera doing interviews. Bless you.
Got
You
the
okay?
sneezes today.
Yeah, it's going around.
I went out to Eugene Beckman had there's one I want to plug, the House of Healing. Him and his wife started this amazing equestrian experience for just young women that are in need, right? Like, I mean, if the foster girls, and they go out there and get Christian counseling and just a really amazing experience. So Gene Beckman's wife started House of Healing, and if you could just please everybody go up and go online, look up House of Healing, donate to them. That's something really, it was touching. I got to MC their fundraiser last night, but
Awesome.
There's like a little forest fire over there.
Was it up in Kingfisher County?
No, it's kind of in between El Reno and Yukon.
Okay.
But out there they had the little ranch, and what a great experience. So I got to MC that. All the touchies and the feelies got me. Oh man,
Yeah, it'll tug on those old heartstrings.
tug on the
We
heartstrings.
got a lot to be blessed for.
Yeah, we
Never
do.
forget it. Don't take life for granted.
Alex, what about you, man? What do you got coming up?
Man, I'm just grateful to be down here in the great state of Oklahoma. Love Colorado. Grew up in Louisiana. Just think everybody should be proud of where they're from. Continue to support local, whatever that may look like. Whether it's beers, whether it's your industry, whether it's clothing that you like to wear and support your friends. Jeremy Funk, first podcast I ever went on. Shout out to him. He had a great golf tournament last Friday. Funk Futures. I'll plug that.
Yeah, I like that. I like his show.
He's a good guy, tripping over the barrel.
Fun.
So yeah,
What a great name too.
it's a good name.
Yeah, my name's Controversial Talking Energy Show. It's a long story.
It's controversial.
Well, and once again, I'm going to make a shout out. Max Gagliardi. I
Talked to Max yesterday.
What a great guy.
That's
I
awesome.
love his show. And
Good show.
I started this Talking Energy Show before I realized there was a show called the Talk Energy Podcast. So Talking Energy Show, Talking Energy Podcast, right? 2 separate entities, but in the same vicinity of each other. And I was like, oh crap, because I went out and got like the website and all these hashtags and all the social media things, and I'm like, oh man. But Robert Hefner's like, hey, Max has this show called the Talk Energy Podcast. And I'm like, oh no. So I hope we don't trip over each other. And I was like, you know what? If I need to for a guy that I support, I'll get rid of this name in a heartbeat. I don't care. It's branded, not branded. I'll start we'll just call it the Oilfield Tailgate every time we come in here.
What's the Earthstone?
Earth Energy.
Earth
Earth
Energy.
Energy.
Earthstone. That's
Yeah, there we go. What about you, man? What do you want to plug, Zach?
Oh, what do I want to plug? I went to a golf tournament on Monday for F&M Bank, a local bank, support local. They put on a great tournament.
What's
hosted
their
by
charity
Oak
go to?
Tree. It was more of a client appreciation type of event that they do every year. So good to be a part of that. And I'll plug Forecast. You can find information on Forecast at for-cast.io. Forecast is an oil and gas engineering software, effectively values producing oil and gas properties.
And I guess
If
I'm
you're
going
buying
to
or
plug,
selling.
of course, I'm going to plug Night Fire Specialists. We have fire suppression units for your well sites. Make sure your equipment and your people are safe. Go home whole every night.
Every night.
All right.
Every
Guys, thank you all. Appreciate
Thanks,
you very
Matt.
much.
Appreciate your
time.
This is our show, Talking Energy Show. Check
Thanks,
us out.
everyone.
Take
Thanks.
care. God bless. Bye-bye.